Welcome to Anecdotes for Success with Matt and Paul. Storytelling is an art form, emphasizing the value and learning that is created through personal experience. Our purpose is to share these stories and experiences with the listener. Everyone has a powerful testimony. Let's use them to level up to our best life with truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective.
Matt, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Well, we just had a nice convo. Long story short, we're gonna we're gonna have a little debate tonight, just for fun, because we always talk about it. We always agree so much. I'm just gonna play devil's advocate today, if that's okay. And let's say we have some students of mine, and you come in to talk to them like you always do. Okay.
Yeah.
And you
Which, by
ask
the way,
them,
I need an invite here. I mean,
yeah, I know. Well, if we're new classroom. I'm in it. I'm in it today. Here
yeah,
early.
especially that's my old stomping grounds there.
Yeah,
Classrooms.
we're on the college campus, which was
Yeah, it's
awesome.
beautiful.
And
Beautiful
and
there.
I feel, yes, it is. And I feel in the next couple of years that's even going to change, because here I have high school kids from 8 different school districts, but we have our high school class on the college campus like it's prep school. I
Yeah.
feel like colleges are going to kind of start redefining some circumstances to stay in the game.
I was
That
gonna say that's interesting. I never thought about that. That's very interesting because, like you said, that may be a necessity for their business model.
maybe, depending. And
Uh,
so, but I always they talk about college a lot. I mean, I have all honor students, so naturally in society, their next leap is to go to college. It's almost just in their DNA and their family's DNA.
Yep.
And you know, it could depend what they go for, but I want to stop there. But I want to ask you, should a business student go to college for 4 years? I'll leave it that blank, and then you get talking, and I'll just play devil's advocate.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I mean, to set the scene, this is super topical for us, right? I mean, particularly you in your world, but like this is something that we feel we talk about. We talk about it off, off the podcast, right? This is like a debate you and I discuss often, and not just with each other, but others as well. And so um it's it's really gotten to be something that I talk about much more often than I ever would have imagined. It really is. We were saying earlier, how when we were kids, or coming up through high school, it was different than it is today, and that's okay. Things change. Nothing wrong with that. But it's definitely different, and um, neither of us have ever. I mean, I get sick of like making qualifying statements like we're not saying you shouldn't go. It's like I get sick of saying that. What I'm saying is, and this touches on Paul, I think three of our four pillars, right? It's like truth, it touches on trade-offs and perspectives in some way. Um, because where I get at it when I think about this, it touches truth in the sense that when you're making this decision to go, like what's the truth behind why you're going? Are you going because you're conditioned to go there? Are you going because your parents said you should go to college? I've told you this before. I've got, close family who I had a discussion with, and this goes back a couple of years, and I was telling, talking to this person within my family who I care about deeply, what's your future plans? What are you going for? And it was just as business. Well, what do you want to do? Well, I want to be in business. And I was like, well, why go to college then? There's a number one, you can learn everything you need to online for something like that through YouTube and many other things. You can go to college, you can go to classes for free online. You can go to Harvard website right now and take classes for free. And now you won't get the degree, but you will have the information. And it's funny because the degree seems to matter a lot more than the information to most people. So, I had this conversation, and the person's parents were like, "No, our child's going to college. Period. Forget your harebrained scheme of, you know, putting him in a position to have the content, have the knowledge, have the learning, no debt, and a 4-year head start. With that doesn't matter to us. What matters to us is that we can say this person got their degree from a college, and that's not truth to me. That's my problem with it. What do you really want out of your kid? What's your real perspective, and what are the trade-offs by going to college and not going? So just let me get that out of the way. That's how I'm thinking through this a little bit. But Paul, to answer your question, depending on what you want to do in that business, if your idea is you want to own your business, you have an idea for a business, and I don't mean you're going to start the next Uber or Facebook. I mean, I want to be a franchisee. I want to be I want to own real estate. I want to be a plumber. I want to be whatever. I have a great, programming idea I want to start. No, I don't believe for most people that you're better off going to college. I think you're better off not taking on the debt. I think you're better off getting a 4-year head start. I think you're better off getting into the real world and networking within the real world and getting started quickly. That's what I think.
I have a hard time playing devil's advocate to any of that stuff, but I will. Let's say you're a bright young mind, and you. Well, I think, to be fair, we know engineers and doctors and lawyers and nurses that everybody, you need a specific certification. Even teachers, for crying out loud.
Yes, exactly.
You
You have to go to college, and you should, right?
I get that, but for a young business mind, that's great. They can jump in the real world for 4 years, but how are they going to make those connections? They could go to college and join clubs and go to professors' office hours and build a lot of relationships that way, under the safety of having everything paid for, even though you're paying for it later through loans. But while you're there, you're not worried about putting food on the table. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Would it be more tolerable in your mind if somebody went to college with the idea that I'm going to join all the business clubs I can, I'm going to meet as many people as I can, and I'm going to live in my professor's office during their office hours and try to just soak up all that info? But
Yeah. It's a great question. It's the right question, and I think it's theoretically there's value to it, right? My concern is if the student is really going to do that, then you've got at least a semblance of an argument there. In terms of, I love the club idea. I love the networking idea. You know, I've done some polling, and it's very much polling that comes from just me talking to friends or people I run into. There's nothing quite scientific about it. And asking, hey, did you network? And it's very rare that I heard someone, even very successful people, say, "Oh yeah, that's what I did." So it sounds good. I don't know how common it is, but it does happen. People can make great relationships there. Um, I think that I have trouble being convinced that's actually what really happens. Um, when it comes to sitting in your professor's office hours and really, really knocking on that door and getting that, I've I don't find that that would be very helpful for most people in the real world. I don't. You're going to learn more in the field. You're going to learn more failing out there, making mistakes out there, having some victories out there, than listening to some talking head who's probably done very little in the real world. And by the way, I've done, I've taught, I've done, like, I'm not trying to be mean here at all. But if I want to learn how to go be a great plumber, I want to go out with a plumber in his truck and lay under the kitchen sink with my flash, what my flashlight, my wrench. I don't want to sit in a classroom and talk about it. There's just way more value in getting your hands dirty and your feet wet than it is listening to someone who probably's done very little of that. If when I'm talking business, I want to be behind my sandwich unit. I want to be in my books, financial books, not books that we have for a class. I want to be in it with people. I want to be in a meeting trying to sell that sponsorship. I don't want to talk to you about that meeting. So there's just not enough value there for me. And then to take on the debt on top of it, I just think it's becoming very much a lose proposition.
What about the corporate world? Do corporations promote people that don't have the looks good on paper degree?
Um, my experience with people who hire in corporations, and again, Paul, there's a lot of nuance to this, right? To be fair, however, I don't like to make the exception the rule. Like you qualified earlier. Look, if you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a teacher, something that requires a degree, take that off the table. Like it's required, go get it if that's what you want to do. We don't have to include that in the discussion. Don't
Right.
bring the exception and to the rule into your argument. It's not the truth. It's not fair to the discussion. If we're going to have a true discussion. Most people I know who hire, and I mean hire at pretty significant levels, go, I've never looked at your degree, your GPA. I don't look at GPAs. They do like internships and things that get people out in the real world, and they want to sit and they just want to hear them talk. They want to hear how they respond. There's a lot of things that they want to. There's a lot of that back and forth social stuff they want to see. Now, I'm sure in certain sciences, Paul, I don't care what your personality is like. Can you solve that problem or not? Right. But in the business world, um, we were having a conversation offline about a young man, and all I could think is someone he doesn't have a degree, let's say, he doesn't have some of the things that check the boxes on paper that would make him a good hire. But I think of that in my business. I go, that's the kind of person I want on my team. I don't care about your degree. I don't care one bit about your degree. I want to know what your work ethic is, what your goals are, what you're trying to accomplish, who you are. The degree means nothing to me. You're not coming to me with a degree that's going to impress me. To want to put you on my team to a level where I look at you as part of my future and even a possible partner. And I know a lot of people who hire who go, hey, yeah, some organizations say you have to have a degree. My guess is those things are going to change more and more over time, in order to get certain roles and that kind of thing. That's why I got some of my advanced degrees, to be perfectly honest. But I never learned anything in those classes that made me better off.
It's funny. Think about what you just said, and it's my next question. Most programs, if you want to get an MBA, they want you to have work experience before you go back.
Yeah, they do.
I worked in the real world, I call it, for 2 years before I went back to be a teacher. You
Right.
worked in the business world, still found the want and need to go back and get a degree.
Yep. Twice.
Maybe that's the answer, when it means more, when you have the experience, because you have something to compare it to now, perspective wise.
Yeah, the perspective is great because it actually meant something to me, and my performance, number one, was way better, and then because my comprehension was way better because it actually meant something, right? And I was like, oh, I can relate this to what I'm actually doing day to day in the real world. It turned out, Paul, what mattered to me was the comprehension of it mattered. I no longer cared about getting the degree and having the piece of paper. It totally flipped on me, which was interesting. Outside of being able to teach in the classroom, which I do and I love to do, my degrees have not really the paper hasn't provided me anything. The knowledge has in some ways, but not as much as being what I say behind the counter, because that's often what my world is.
No, that's a great point. I think, I'm done asking my questions against it, but I feel like there's a new model emerging where you can go after it through a hybrid method where you go work. Kids are having record numbers of college credits while in high school, which
Okay.
technically could afford them to go part-time or online and still work and still get their degree in 4 or 5 years. If they went full-time, they could get their degree in as little as 2 or 3 years
Yeah.
sometimes. So
Yeah.
why space it out? And what the biggest battle I hear with students is, well, gosh, this school has a football team and I can go to all these games. And
Yeah.
okay, 6 a year. So out of 52 weeks, you're going to 6 games, which, don't get me wrong, we love, but
Yeah, it's a great time.
you could still do that, not be a student there.
Yeah. I bet you can get tickets.
College is, to me, like Disney World is very good at making parents feel like they're the worst parents on the planet if they've never taken their kids there. And I feel like colleges do a great job of feeding into the emotion of this is the next step if you want a life better than your parents, or if your parents want a life better for you. But that's not happening right now.
Paul, let me take the other side for a minute. Some of the things that I think are valuable on it, on with the school side. Number one, I do think that you can be perceived as being on a faster track. Maybe there's a level of confidence you gain with your degree. If you get a degree, you can then obtain an advanced degree, and that can open up doors you can't get into without them. I mean, there are some advantages. I mean, it'd be disingenuous to suggest there are not. There definitely are some advantages to it. You're probably much more likely to get certain types of promotions with an advanced degree, even in the business world. Some of those things. I don't want to poo-poo that completely. So I do see some reasons there. I do think there's some advantages to going away to college, and you're in a safe area. You can build relationships and meet new people and get kind of forced into situations because you're living in a dorm now, right? And with someone new, and you have to meet new people and form new communities. Like there's some real positives to that, right? I don't want to throw everything out with it. I think where I get passionate about it is that young person who says, I know I want to own my own business or work in a particular business. I know what I want to do. I'm passionate about it. And instead of hopping into it and getting going, they go, well, now I'm going to go to 4 years and listen to someone like me talk about my experiences and what the textbook says. And do case studies and tests and lectures, and those things are all fine, and they have some value. But that young person who's really passionate about starting their own, I'll just say plumbing business, service business, like that young person is going to learn so much more going to work for someone as a plumber than they ever will from Matt talking about, case studies, even if those case studies are on plumbing businesses.
Right.
And now instead of walking 4 years later, they got to listen to me every 3 days for an hour. They walk out with, $100,000, $150,000 in debt. They spent 4 years working. They just earned $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 over those 4 years. Are 4 years ahead of experience, have no debt, and are on pace to build that business much faster, or realize they don't even like that business and want to transition into something else. So at 22, that young Paul is earned money, has no debt, and knows whether he wants to continue that process, versus at 22, no experience, $150,000 in debt, and no earnings. And it's just that to me doesn't make sense anymore.
Right. Well, I think as we get going with this, we both understand the value of college. We were trying to oppose each other, and we've come to this hybrid, because if there's no purpose and you're acquiring debt, it doesn't make any sense. But and I think society puts a timeline. Oh, 22, 23, you should be done with college. Why?
Yeah.
Why can't you chip away with it and be done at 24 with gaining experience at the same time? Eventually, maybe your business you work for pays for your school. But
Both my brothers did that.
yeah, there's no timeline attached to it, but we've put a timeline on it, just like you go to high school for 4 years, now you go to college for 4 years. Why? Like, why not gain experience and chip away at classes, like I said, or, get after what you really want to do. Then you'll realize college will be more purposeful after that, because you know why you're going.
I was going to say, particularly what is it like, you got to ask the question, what's the purpose of it? What's the goal? Is it to have a degree? Okay. If that's the goal, great. What for? To show off, to say that you have a degree like your brother or like your mom or like your friends, or because your parents want you to have a degree? Or is it actually provide you some tangible benefit for your future that is not keeping up with the Joneses? So is it that, or is it the knowledge and the content? If it's the knowledge and the content, there's nothing you can't find online. And there's all sorts of learning opportunities online that do require you to pay for them as well, but don't require the same kind of financial commitment and the same level of time, let's say. Like there's a lot of different options out there. So if you have to have the degree for the future you want, no, decisions made. If you don't, then you need to be honest with yourself. You need to neglect the outside noise, and that can be hard, especially if it's your parents. And you need to do the research to make the right long-term decision for you and what you want out of your life. And that isn't easy at 18. But boy, if you make the wrong decision, it is going to decrease the opportunities you have for the rest of your life.
It's a big decision to make because of the debt involved. And if you have a fund set up where your school's paid for, if you have an athletic scholarship or a large academic scholarship, people don't understand the debt.
Mm-mm. It doesn't seem like anything because everyone else is doing it, so it must be
Right.
tolerable, right? It must not be that big a deal because look, everyone else is doing it. And you know what? It's 4 years away. You're 18 years old, 17 years old. 4 years is almost a quarter of the life you've lived already. 4 years is an eternity, right? And it's hard to look down that road 4 years ahead
Yeah.
when you're 18. Now I can't, that's all I can do. I can't, now I have a hard time looking at today. All I do is look in the future. I wish I could go back to that in some ways because that's not fun all the time either. But so you're making these decisions and they're enormous decisions.
All options should be on the table.
Mm-hmm. And being honest with yourself and hopefully surrounding yourself with people who will challenge you on the options and play devil's advocate for you and leave their personal feelings out of it and caring about, I mean, the number of people, adults who I've talked to who I know the only reason they want their kids to go to school is because it's almost like embarrassing to them if they don't, embarrassing for the parents. And that's just not right. It's just not like, what are you doing? I'm not saying all parents are like that, of course.
Right.
I'm just saying I've experienced that a little bit, and that's terrible. It's terrible. It's about your kid and what's best for their future. And maybe going to college is the best thing for them. Awesome. Get after it. But it's a big decision either way.
And maybe it's not, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it's not. Right. Maybe it's not.
All right. I don't know what we solved. And to be fair, from the beginning, the way I set it up, we were just trying to take opposing sides because, and then, but I think the hybrid way is the way of the future. Just piece through it your way, your journey. There's no
Yeah,
wrong way.
well,
There's
I
no
think
time.
I think ultimately, Paul, 10 years ago, a conversation like this was rare. Now it's much more common, and that's great for the student. It's probably not great for the institutions, but the institutions we're going to have to adjust, and they will,
Yep.
they will,
100%.
and that's I think that's great because the market will speak and say, hey, that your model no longer is what we want, and we need you to change it. And if you don't, you're gonna die like any business who doesn't change. And if you do, then you're gonna drive more customers and more participation, which is what every business does want. So there's nothing bad about it. It's, I have to participate in that world, and so does everyone else who's in business.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah, enjoy your class today.
Thanks. Bye.